sometimes the best discoveries are what you're not looking for, right? And that's what daydreaming is about: washing dishes or taking a shower, taking a walk. We have to be mindful that our brain needs breaks in order to do its thing in the background.
Welcome. We are back for another episode of Adventures in Business Live. Mandy, happy birthday week.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to show you this, Amani. I don't know if you can see it. Scooter, my husband, got me this shirt, this Sally O'Malley. I like to kick and stretch. I'm 50. I'm 50 shirt. I'm wearing it all day. It's fun.
So for the people who might not know where that theme comes from, share it with the people.
Okay, people. I got this from Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live 20 years, I feel like 20 years ago, maybe 10. It has to be more than 10, 15 years ago. It was like a Will Ferrell era. Yeah. And all she did was walk around and kick and stretch. And she would be like, because I'm 50. And it didn't occur to me that this would ever come in handy until I turned 50, which is this Saturday.
Okay.
And anyways. So I didn't realize this morning. My husband gave me this gift, which is hilarious.
All right.
So I'm wearing it with great pride. And I do like to kick and I don't like to stretch, but I need to do more stretching. So it's just a good reminder to stretch.
Yeah. So because you like to kick, that reminds me of the GIF you have where it's of you kicking. And so that reminds me of one of my friends, childhood friends, randomly yesterday sent me this picture. He said, I saw this person post up this meme and I was like, hold on, I know that guy. So someone randomly had found my little That's Fire GIF and used it. And someone that I knew saw it and sent me a photo of it.
Oh!
So of course I sent it to Izzy and everything. But I remember when I saw your little kicking GIF, that one really made me laugh. So that was a good reminder.
Listen, those gifts are the gifts. The gifts are the gifts that keep on giving. I'm telling you, I said this before, I will say it again. People spend so much money on marketing of, billboards or magazine ads or whatever. You can get 20 gifts for a fraction of the price, and it's evergreen content that just keeps going and going and going. It's one of the greatest things that I've ever encountered by meeting Elizabeth, Izzy Inc., creating those gifts for both of us. Yeah, she's great.
I love it. I love it. Now, before we get to our guests, what is the one thing you're looking forward to the most in terms of your birthday celebration?
Ooh, well, I've got a lot of celebrations. I'm looking forward to all the celebrations. I have a talent show this Saturday. I just asked my friends for their time and talent. I don't want gifts. I just want times and talents. So that's going to be fun. And then next week after that, I'm going back to Ohio to see my family. So I'm excited. My family, we're going to do a bus birthday where we get on a bus and we go to a restaurant. But, it's always fun. The bus rides are always the best. And it's just my immediate family. And then I have a birthday with my girlfriends from Ohio, like my girlfriends that I grew up with, like grade school, high school, college. 3 of us turned 50. So we're having a group 50 at the end. So I'm excited for all the little micro celebrations with the little groups of people. I think it's going to be really fun.
Fantastic. Yeah. So we want to get to our guest today, who I actually had the privilege of meeting in person, because we've been talking for a good 4 years on the interwebs. And we have to credit Von Lai Dumont for introducing us. And she came and spoke to us at MPI many, many years ago. And so we vibe because we got the music down, lyrics down, a love of Prince. And then I'm going to bring her to the stage here because also, and there is Genein right there. She's on stage. Well, welcome. But she also helped me kind of organize and plan my latest book event in Phoenix last week, where we finally got to meet in person. So we would like to welcome Genein Letford to the stage. Round of applause. Here you are.
Hi, Janine. It's so
Happy
good to
to
see you.
happy to be here. So good to be seen.
Yes, it's great to be seen. And I figured it's very apropos if we ask you this question. If you were going to choose a song and lyrics in a song that best describes who you are, what song would you choose? And what lyrics would you really want to emphasize?
Wow. I don't know. Um, I would have to go with right now because we evolve throughout time, and like a lot of people tell me like, oh, it's a soundtrack of my life. But a song that I actually sang on promptu at the United Nations last year is funny. It's a Disney song from Little Mermaid.
Aw.
But she said, I don't know when, I don't know how, but I know something's starting right now. Right, look and you'll see. And then I changed the words, we're going to be a positive brain economy. But I just love those lyrics because I feel like I'm on the verge of breaking through with something big. With all the research in neuroscience, something called brain capital, which we can talk about later, and just the renaissance. We're in a renaissance of brain power, and we're learning so much about the brain in the past 5-10 years that this is like, I feel like I'm on the verge. Watch and you'll see, we're going to be something
Okay.
great. So
All
that's it.
right.
Little
Okay.
Mermaid.
Now, my follow-up question is that we share a love of Prince. So,
Yes.
if you're gonna pick a favorite Prince song or a favorite Prince lyric,
Hmm.
what lyric would you pick? And I'll share one of mine because mine is from, I think I told you this before, like If I Was Your Girlfriend, that's the name of the
Hmm.
song. And I think the lyric goes, if I was your girlfriend, would you run to me if someone hurt you, even if that someone was me? I just think that's just like, whew, chef's kiss for lyrics. What about you?
Yes, I would have to go with Gold, and I would have to say that I'm doing a lot of research on him and finding songs that I've never knew even existed, besides, his like top 10 that mostly everyone knows. But Gold was very deep. It's an evolving creativity song, but he says that there's a mountain and it's mighty high. You cannot see the top unless you fly. There's a molehill of proven ground. Ain't nowhere to go if you hang around. And so, kind of like the Little Mermaid song, I just think it's that time of letting go what's from behind and going up to the next level, but you have to let go. Like a lot of times we want to hold on to who we are in the past and we still want to elevate, but there's that letting go, which is the harder part. So you can't see the top unless you fly. But check out the song Gold to everyone out there. It is gold.
There we go. Okay.
You are both so evolved when it comes to Prince lyrics. My favorite Prince lyric is the opening of Let's Go Crazy, where he's like, "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness this thing called life." Like, well, you're both are like inspirational and thought provoking, and I'm like, let's go crazy.
Well, let's
So,
add to that because I actually did my podcast with Dr. Pamela, and she actually wrote her book called Dearly Beloved, Prince, Spirituality, and Everything. So she broke that down. And then she talked about it being a gathering piece, like dearly beloved. You are beloved. Do you even know how much you're loved? And
Mm,
then we are gathered here today. Like she wrote a whole book on those 4 lines. Powerful.
I
okay.
just got the chills. I'm gonna have to break it down because it's like I just sang it for karaoke last week, and it is powerful in a room of people just to be like, dearly beloved. Like everybody does instantly grab attention, right? I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
break it down. That's a good call. I also, can we just back it up for a second, Janine? You said something when I think of the United Nations, I don't think of spontaneity. And you just said that you just said that you spontaneously broke into song. So what were
Yes.
you doing there and how did the moment for you to spontaneously break into song come to be?
Yeah, well, we're on this huge shift. We're understanding the power of the brain, and yes, I do have a brain. I travel with it, and so the United Nations is really gathering the top thought leaders around the world, really. And I'm going back in September, and they have their lecturers, they have their panels, they have their things set up. And me coming in, my background's in elementary ed, very musical and just everything. So he was asking for like a word from people to sum up the day, right? Powerful, energetic. And I was just like, can I do a song? And he surprisingly gave me the mic.
Oh,
He's like, this isn't on the agenda, but Janine just wanted to wrap it up. And I sang that song and I changed the last words to watch in your sea will be a positive brain academy. Economy, which means the
mm,
brain power of people will be at the positive level, not at the negative level. Because a lot of times we think that that's what we're going on now, or that's what's happening now. And people just broke out clapping. One woman came up to me, was like, that was the best part of this whole thing, you know. But you and I know, and I know Amani knows the power of music to shift, right? To shift
Mhm.
brain states, to shift emotional states. And even 6 months later, they my son and I fly to the Dallas Center for Brain Health. And one woman I was sitting next to, she was like, yeah, didn't you sing at the United Nations 6 months later? You know, and I was up there for
wow.
what, 15 seconds out of a 3-day event. That is the power of music. And that's why I'm here today to talk about that.
Oh, I love
All
that.
right.
Well, with that, let's segue into what is Lyrics and Leadership Institute.
I think it's an idea that has met its time, right? As I mentioned before, we're in a huge shift. People are wanting something deeper. They're wanting something to hold on or to help them find purpose with their work. They understand it's more than just money and paying bills. There's more to life than that. There's more to life than climbing the ladder. So, what Lyrics and Leadership Institute, and we are an official 501c3. We are an institute that looks to give leadership skills, life skills, social skills, but also brain health skills, right? Of how do we really know how this organ works? How do we know how to use it as a tool and see it as an asset, right? A lot of times we don't think about our brain unless something goes wrong, right? And it also is. We are also positioning ourselves, our co-director, Keely, who's an amazing, globally famous dancer and choreographer. And then there's me, and then we have other facilitators on board. And we're also looking to be a solution towards this epidemic of Alzheimer's and dementia and other neural degenerative diseases, because the research is getting clearer and clearer and clearer that Alzheimer's, even though you see symptoms in the 60s or 70s or 80s, it's actually a midlife disease. It can
Mm,
show up in midlife, which means we need to start being aware of it in childhood and even infancy, right? And
Mm.
so how do we teach people in a fun way, going back to the funness of music and the power of music to shift mental states? How do we go back to the whole lifespan of saying, how do we teach people to take care of their brain and themselves throughout the lifespan? And we believe music and the arts, we're not just music, but as Prince was not just music, right?
Mhm.
He was an artist, he was a photographer, he was a poet. And how do we teach all of these things we have to know through the medium of the work of famous artists?
I love it. And who's it for? And who can attend or utilize the Lyrics and Leadership Institute?
Yes, well, we're growing our online platform, and so they can go to the website and check out the content there. We have a free Super Bowl course. So we analyze Prince's Super Bowl show and we look at the leadership skills that we can pull from there. And it's for individuals, like my other company, my for-profit company, I do keynotes, I do organizational training and corporate training. I'm still doing that. And then I do school district training because my background's in K-12. So I always love to work with the schools. So I do that. But Lyrics and Leadership Institute is for like you, like people who know I have to take care of my brain. I have to keep learning. I have to be a lifelong learner. I have to have mental stimulation. I have to learn how to eat well. We even have a certified chef who's on our team. I have to learn these things. Where do I go? A lot of people don't know how to get started. And so it's just for the individual, of course, hitting people 20, 30, 40s. But we have people who are older, 40s, 50s, 60s, because mental stimulation, understanding all the 7 pillars of brain capital are important. So it's for the individual who's looking to keep learning and build a community of people who love artists. It's not just Prince. We have other artists as well, but they love music. They love learning in fun ways. They don't want to sit in a 3-hour lecture and only, hold on to one or two things.
Yeah, that's beautiful. How
Yeah.
great you have that. It's great. How great we have that.
Exactly. Where does your love for the brain, where did it start? Where does it come from?
It's a beautiful organ, right? We have one of the books that my 7-year old and I wrote together, and his dad did the illustration. My brain, my beautiful brain, right? And just to get people to fall in love with brain. But I was on the UCLA campus and signed up for a class with Dr. Matthew Lieberman, and he was looking for students to be a part of a study. And I was like, $60 to lay there and play some games? Sure. I'm a broke college student. I'll take it. And he called me around. Hey, you want to see a picture of your brain? I'm like, okay. And I saw it and I fell in love. I was like, wow, that's controlling everything.
Mhm.
And then I had a small incident at the UCLA dorm, which I haven't spoken about. I was going to put it in a book, where I just kind of fell, and then I got back up and I couldn't speak. Right. So I don't know what was going on. I could
Mhm.
think, but I couldn't talk. And I was like, this is weird. Now I should have went to the ER. Anyone who hears this, go to the ER if that ever happens to you. But I didn't. I went to work. So I don't know if I had like a small stroke or something, but that happened. And then another incident happened where I became aware of the power and importance of this 3-pound organ. Like, if you scrub your knee, if you hurt your elbow, even if, God forbid, lose a kidney, you can still function. But if your brain taps out, like that's it, right? And so I just started studying it, and I teach children, so of course I had to be aware. They don't do a good job teaching teachers how to understand the brain, but I had to do my own research of, how does the brain calm itself down, and what does breathing do, and what does it mean to change brain states for children. So I kind of had to do my own research there, but it's so fascinating to see what it can do, and also to see how people kind of live in their brain jails, and how can
Mm.
I, with our new curriculum, help people break free from these cognitive neurological jails.
Okay. So,
Yeah, can you expand on that brain jail?
well,
Like,
yes,
first,
that's
again,
follow-up.
this is another. You've got so many great terms: brain jail, brain delicious.
Yeah.
Like, what is brain jail? How are people keeping themselves in brain jail right now?
Well, some of my first work was intercultural creativity. So we looked at how culture plays an effect on creative identity, right? How you see the creative capacity of yourself, and how you judge the creative capacity of another person. And culture is where we see life through, right? And when I say culture, I don't just mean ethnicity and nationality. Culture is just a social group. Like, you have your DJ culture, right? There's different terminology that he uses that I have no idea what it means. Whereas we have our ed culture, our tech culture. And so we need to be mindful, right? We tell people, go out there and be creative. Or, I just did a video on my LinkedIn, think expansively, but cultural limitations can affect the way people engage and push into life, and what they expect, how life pushes back. And so, I use the example of even my own family. My mother raised, four kids practically by herself, but she was the type of person that was like, I want to go to the Grand Canyon. How do we do this? So with 4 kids, living on $40,000 a year, which I realize now that was not a lot of money to
Yeah.
raise 4 children on. Um, she just made it happen. Like, she just backtracked, right? She reverse engineered it. And so my culture growing up, like the home culture, I witnessed someone who had a goal, backtracked, and hit that goal over and
Mhm.
over and over again with limited funds. Whereas, other family member groups or other friends, even though we were the same culture, right, ethnic culture, completely different experience, right? And so we have to understand. And when I do a lot of corporate training with adults or coaching, for some people it's hard, but we have to look at the developmental years, because that is the foundational aspect from where we operate as adults. There's the whole attachment theory and things like that, but that's one thing that I want people to investigate through the music of Prince or NDRE or Lauryn Hill or David Bowie or Dolly Parton, right? When you really look at their lyrics, they're inviting you to do some real self-awareness introspection. And to be fully creative, we have to say, okay, this was the belief system that I grew up in. that is no longer true, right? How do I reframe that or rewrite that in my brain to tell my brain I can do this, or I can lay out the steps to get this goal reached.
Okay. So you mentioned Dolly Parton. I got to follow up with that. You mentioned Lauryn Hill. I got to follow up with that because I have specific lyrics I want to ask you about. But first, I want to go back because I think your business model is really fascinating because you're a trainer and a keynote speaker. You're speaking multiple times in front of the United Nations. That could be on many of people's bucket lists. How do you grow your business? How do you find like your speaking opportunities? Because there are many speakers and entrepreneurs that watch the show. So I'm sure they would love to ask you via me and Mandy, how are you able to kind of grow like your business and do such interesting work and get paid for it?
Yeah. What a beautiful place to be, to have that intersection of getting paid for the thing that you love. So I'll tell people I'll do this for free. I still need to feed my kid, and and put a roof over her head. But I would, and like my books. I was like, just praying. I just want to be in a place one day where I just can give these books out and just, go to the hospital and donate 300 books and not even blink an eye. So first
Mm.
of all, I speak it out. Number one, that's key. We actually have one of our books. It's just a declaration book. Like, I am bold, right? I am creative. And next thing, Innovation Women, they're a platform that I love. Vaughn actually introduced me to them, and they are just a group of women. Men can join too, but they meet at every Friday. But they have a wonderful platform, and it's cheap. It's like 120
Yeah.
bucks a year, so it's
Yeah.
really affordable. It doesn't break the bank, and it just has a whole bunch of speaking opportunities there. And so, leaving the classroom in 2019 with a whim, and a dream. My old boss was like, "Do you have another school you're going to?" And I was like, "I love this school. If I was going to another classroom, I'll just stay here." But something in my heart is pushing me to take care of this creativity crisis that we're in. Um, and so I joined them and found a wonderful community of like-minded speakers and women doing their own thing and sharing their mistakes. That's huge. Sharing their
Mhm.
wins. And I could see opportunities on there. Another thing that I did is, I'm the type of person that I will create something and then find the research to back it up, right? So intercultural creativity, we understand the term intercultural competence, or cultural competence, which is your ability to connect with people from different lived backgrounds.
Yes.
And then we understand the term of creative thinking, which isn't just artistry, it's connected, but it's the ability to think of new ideas that have value. And so what I did was, like, I did all this study in cultural competence and I'm studying creativity. Is there anyone using the term intercultural creativity?
Mm.
Looked it up. No one used it. Contacted my trademark lawyer. He secured it. And that's another thing. And Amani could talk about for 3 hours about this. Own your stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have a great idea and you can see that it hasn't been used, or it's still more or less available, contact a lawyer or do it yourself. But I knew this was going to be a big idea, so I wanted it done right. And so I just found that term, but then I said cultural competence has the same mindset, strategies, and mental cognitive layouts that creative thinking has. So if you're good at culturally competently connecting with people, you're probably good at creative thinking, because they sit on the same set of cognitive skills. And that was my aha. Sitting in this chair, staring out the window, I was like, wait, what? And that's called your default mode network, when your brain is just daydreaming and you get those, oh, wow, right? Like when you're in the shower, you're like, yes, right?
Hmm.
Which is very important for creative thinking. And so that's what I would tell people. In fact, I just spoke to our certified chef who's on our team, and we'll be doing classes on hip hop and cooking well for your microbiome, right?
Fun.
Um, where I was just like, what's your thing? What sets you apart from others? So people just need to really think about, we spent 12, 18 years trying to be like everyone else. Now I need you to break free and tell me what makes you you. And so that's me. And then the other thing I would say, in alignment with that, what is one of my gems for intercultural creativity is authentic adaptation. So I'm authentically me, but I can adapt, right? I've worked with infants, I've worked with K-12, the elementary kids, high school. Those are two completely different groups. I've taught at California State University Northridge, so I've worked at the higher ed level, and I've worked in corporate. But I'm authentically Janine. Like if with corporate, I have Legos, I have Play-Doh, I have pipe cleaners. But with my kids, that's how I teach. I'm interactive. I sing in my keynotes. I don't care who you are, bankers, lawyers, or your kindergarten. That's authentically how I transmit information. Now the content changes, right? Whether you're in banking versus second grade, but I'm authentically me, and I tell people what's authentically you is going to help you stand out.
Okay. All right. Mandy, go ahead.
Well, I want to hang here at something you said because it's one of my favorite things, daydreaming. And I have talked about this for years because I learned it from a guest we had, Dr. Alessandra Wall. She talks a lot about the art of nothing
Yes.
and how powerful a tool daydreaming can be. So I took that years ago and I would talk to anybody that would listen about it. And of course, everybody thinks I'm nuts. But then a couple years later, people will be like, remember how you were telling me to daydream? I tried it and it's great. Everybody thinks you're crazy. And then they try it and everything's great. But I was delighted when I was doing research on you and saw you talking about daydreaming. So can you just talk about the power of daydreaming and the science of daydreaming?
Yes. Well, those of you who want to see our sing along Sundays, I choose a song once a month and I say, hey, come and sing with me because singing is powerful. So I chose the song Daydream by Lily Moella.
Mm.
Daydream, right?
Hmm.
There's this life that you're making, right? And daydreaming is very important. We have to understand that the brain is a beautiful, I don't want to call it necessarily a machine, but it's working, right? um and it needs breaks, right? The Center for Brain Health always pushes this, like 5 breaks a day, 5 minutes, go take a walk, go whatever. And we have to understand, there's a wonderful TED talk where he talks about unconscious neural reactivation. There's a big word for you. So what these studies have shown, that if my son is working on fractions, right, what he's doing now, simplifying fractions, okay, do it, it benefits him to go off and play or color or take a walk, because his subconscious mind is still working through, if he's focused on or if he was focused on that and wants to get better at that, still working through the problem. And so what daydreaming does, it allows something called your default mode network, your DMN, to kind of come back up to the forefront. And the way that they found this out is they have people in an MRI, and they were just doing their little games, and then the person had to switch out games. And so the people were just like laying there daydreaming. Normally, you would think the brain would quiet down, right? Because they're not doing anything. But
Mm.
the opposite happened. It started revving up, and the scientists were like, "Wait, what? What is going on?" Right? It's funny how we did have these huge discoveries by accident, because that was an accidental discovery. Um, which is called like role reversal or something by Dr. Martin Seligman. He says sometimes the best discoveries are what you're not looking for, right?
Yes.
Like pay
Yes.
attention to what you're not looking for. And as you know, musically inclined, sometimes the
Yeah.
most powerful part of the music is
Mhm.
in the silence,
Yes.
right? And great composers know how to use silence well. So that's what happened in science. And that's what daydreaming is about. So your unconscious or your subconscious is able to make connections with things that are not normally connected, like that trip you took to Italy, and that statement your 7-year-old said, to the meal your mom cooked 2 weeks ago, and bam. And so everything you see behind me that I'm able to do, to talk about, to write about, and all the products that you see from me came from me sitting in my chair dreaming, where my brain was like, wait, cultural competence, and just from washing dishes or taking a shower, taking a walk. We have to be mindful that our brain needs breaks in order to do its thing in the background. And so if we're always go, go, go and focusing outward, doing those TPS reports that I always say, stop doing those TPS
Ah, I love an
reports.
office space
Yes.
reference. It's good. Good.
Yes, it's always I say it now, and sometimes I'll get a laugh like, wait, in the back. But yeah, and so that's what Lyrics and Leadership is about. That's what Brain Alicia's Adventures is about, which is our K-12 program. It's like people need to know this. A lot of us aren't trained into knowing how to optimize our brain from the get-go. And so here we are.
So you talk about a lot of weighty stuff. It's scientific. It's super smart, and it's needed. It is desperately needed in personal and professional life. So sometimes I know when we talk about some heavy stuff, we can lose audience members. They tune out, or they don't understand it, or the words are too long, or whatever. How do you keep this relatable to audiences? Because I've watched a little bit of your stuff. I've seen some of your posts, and I'm like, that totally makes sense. I don't know if I would have thought about that before. So like, how do you take this heavy, weighty stuff
Mhm.
and make it relatable to people so they can put some action into it for their own lives?
Yeah, I sit in hour-long lectures, great organizations, amazing organizations like the Brain Capital Alliance, the EBC, the European Brain Group, and then some more groups in Europe. Europe is really doing a lot in this area, but they put out their videos that they're seriously like 8 hours. Of course, there's no
Mm.
multiple speakers and everything, but they don't really separate them. There's a lot of work in Texas. And the Center for Brain Health. They do a better job of separating their videos and making it a little more applicable. But I tell people my gift to the world is the fact that I was trained up as an elementary school teacher. So, right, foundational training is key, right? Foundational experiences are key. And so, if I cannot explain it to a 6-year-old, I really don't know it myself, right? Pulling from the words of Albert Einstein, and it's true. And a lot of times, your amazing neuroscientists are doing amazing things. There might be just talking to one another who they understand, right? They share their articles, their journals, their 8-point font, 20-page things. But I'm like, yeah, Sally at Walmart is not reading this. you know,
True. And Sally
Jimmy
needs
over
it.
at Jiffy
Yeah.
Lube, he's that's like, what is this?
Right.
But me, I love it. And so my job is to take all and like I have stuff here, right? All of this and say, how would I explain it to a 10th grader, right? Seth Godin says that, or Malcolm Gladwell. He's like, I write at the level of the 8th grade for a reason, right? And I'm very mindful of that. And also, this is why I believe the arts are a critical component and even a justice issue, because when you're engaged in the arts, you have to learn how to think symbolically and metaphorically, right? You have to understand how to take an abstract concept or music, right? How does music tell a story? How do you use frequencies to actually create a narrative? That is not something that comes by very easy. You have to practice at it and see how emotions work and see how things rise and fall, and you can tell a story. And it's the same way. Like, how do I take this and tell a story? Because the brain operates from story. And if you see one of my last posts, I posted a picture of myself and my husband as a 30-year-old when we first got married. And then he sent me an AI age version, and we were like 80. Um, but that got a lot of views for sure, and a few comments, because it resonates. Faces resonate
Mm.
with people, stories resonate with people. And then I tell the story, and then I added in the research, because I know I have some people looking at this who have hard science backgrounds. I did some research from Stanford that I actually wrote about in my own book, about people are more apt to make better choices if they can see themselves
Mm.
as if they can see the older person. Like, you right now are carrying around an 80-year-old inside of you, and hopefully you'll get there, or 90, or wherever you wish to get to. But we, as a 20-year-old, you don't think about your 80-year-old self.
Right.
But in the case of Alzheimer's, we have to do that. So my challenge, right, this year is, how do I make this important to a 20-year-old who does not see themselves as an 80-year-old, but their brain is taking score. Their brain is accumulating stuff that will come to fruition when they're 80 if they don't take the proper steps today.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, let's go to Dolly Parton. So you mentioned her. Let's go to Dolly. Is there a particular song where her lyrics really resonated with you and you like to use these lyrics as a teaching kind of foundation?
Yes. If you know the song 9 to 5, and
Yeah.
it was a song that was on the sitcom show 9 to 5, right?
Right. Hmm.
And it's about a woman just jumping out of bed and going to work. But she says, working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living, barely getting by. It's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and they never give you credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you let it, right? Um, yeah, just you would think that I would deserve a fair promotion. I want to move ahead, but the boss won't seem to let me. And I swear sometimes this man is out to get me. I wonder how many people are singing those singing those lyrics, and you
Right.
don't. And the reason why I love it because I don't have my diamond. Normally, I have a huge diamond. I spoke somewhere I can't find it, but we are multifaceted, right? Like a diamond. We are multifaceted individuals. And I have a prismatic leadership program for my leaders to say great leaders are multifaceted. They understand that people are multifaceted. And the reason why I use the music is it allows you to enter to these conversations, which could be difficult for people. Prince talked about some difficult things, right? Some weighty stuff. So does Dolly and Lauren Hill and David Bowie. But sometimes it's kind of hard to say, "Hey, let's talk about your childhood trauma," or even just the weighty things. But going through it through the gates of the art, it's a little bit. They can swallow it easy, and it's a little bit distracting from the actual thing. And I get to kind of circumvent it and talk about it. Or a lot of times people talk about it in third person, or they move the persona away and they're talking about the art, even though it's having an effect on them. So it's different, almost like what Vaughn does with her Lego series play. The idea is in the Lego in the middle of the table and not on me.
Yeah.
So just my background's in psychology. So really taking that into effect of how can we bring this up in different ways so people can interact with it. And sometimes they think about things they never thought about because we went through it into a different gate than they're
Got
normally
it.
used to. So
Okay.
9 to 5, Dolly
Nine to
Parton.
five. What about Lauren Hill? What's the Lauren Hill song that you use?
I remember being in college, 97. And it's not just the music. We also bring in clips. So I have clips of Lauren just talking in interviews. I have clips of Prince just in. He has a few interviews. Folks say that he wasn't talking too much, but I was like, he has quite a lot of
Yeah.
interviews out here
He was
for not
selective of who he would talk
talking
to.
a lot.
Yeah,
Hmm?
he was selective of who he would talk to. But go ahead.
Yes,
Go ahead.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Um, and one thing that Lauren rung with well, it's a remake. I love the song "You're Just Too Good to Be True." That's a great one. But just every song on her Miseducation, just the concept
Hmm.
of I have been miseducated. So
Yeah.
now it's on me, which is what Lyrics and Leadership Institute is about, is to re-educate myself in order to have a flourishing brain and a flourishing mind. What does that look like for me to take this in my hand as opposed to giving the power to someone else to tell me what education is about? So I would just say the title of her whole album, and then one clip she said of her coming out with her first album, and then her record deal or her record company wanting her to come out with a second one right away. But she
Yeah.
was like, I have it. The reason why the first album was so good
Yeah.
is because it was my life. I lived this, in the words of Miles Davis. Like, if you want it to come out your horn, you got to live it, right? It's true. It's hard to sing about something or play something and you haven't really like lived through it. And so, yeah, that I shared that in the Institute for our students to say, what have you lived? Like where is your content? Your creative content is coming from. And we also talk a lot about creativity. And we tell people, go be more creative. Or why aren't you innovative? But we're not allowing them to live diverse experiences, to interact with diverse people. That's why, I connected with you and I put you on my podcast because like I get to live the life of a DJ, and someone who has researched R&B groups,
Mhm.
so you gave me what you gave me in an hour and a half for what took you 20 years to get,
Yeah.
and the work of Dr. Lisa Fieldman Barrett, she's a neuroscientist. She says when you do that, when you connect with people with different lived experiences, your brain is changing neural shape because their experiences are becoming your experiences.
Mm. Yeah.
That's key. And so that's why it's so important for us to learn from these great artists, but also the students share their own reflections and we learn from each other. And that's the mindset we need going forward of we are all teachers if you choose to see each other that way.
Well, I
Okay.
mean, since you served up this creativity conversation, a sweet little snack plate here, Amani, I know you want to get to the other question, but I want to, before we flip the script, I just want to ask you about creativity because you said there's a creativity crisis. I agree with you. And so it's a two-part question. The first part is we all know we need creativity, but so many people, especially adults, especially high functioning professional adults, will say, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for
Mm.
creativity. Or they just don't put value in cultivating their own creativity. But we know intellectually, we know making space for creativity is more than just being creative. It's just good for the brain. There's so much to it. So when people say, I don't have time for that, or when they're not putting value in the creativity, what do you say to them? Or what's one little thing they can do on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis that just stimulates creativity or shows them the value of that?
Well, like I said before, because of my background with working with the most creative individuals on the earth, children, I do two things first. I first look at their definition of creativity, right? Aristotle said the beginning of wisdom is the definition of terms. And so a lot of people think creativity is only artistry. So we have to make sure we deal with any myths. It involves artistry, but it's, of course, like I said before, the production of something new that has value. And then so another term that I just love making up terms by the way,
I love that.
creative abuse.
Mm.
Hmm.
I got into a Uber and I just came from singing karaoke after doing a keynote. I think I was in Santa Barbara somewhere, and he was just talking, yeah, music. You know what? I was in like the third or fourth grade, and the teacher just walked around and said, "Sing like la la la, sing la la la, sing," and she was like, "Nope, nope, okay, yes, nope, nope, you can't sing, nope," and just like off of two notes, the whole class. And he said,
Mhm.
since that day, I've never sang since.
Mm.
And if I could give you $1 for every time I've heard an adult, right? Someone who has squashed their artistic creativity because of something that happened decades earlier. Like I have a few people in my extended family were like, yeah, I don't sing or I don't get on stage or I don't speak publicly because of some traumatic event that happened in their developmental years. This is why developmental years and that just going back and doing the hard work of repairing some of that is so key because now we're asking them to be fully creative or connecting with people in their adult years and they haven't dealt with that. So that's another thing is I tell people to re-engage their relationship with creativity, artistic creativity. So that's a whole thing. And then for other people to understand, number one, we are all creative and we are all artistic. I have videos of infants who you turn on music, they dance. They didn't go through a 6-week lecture on how to dance. It's there. There's also neuroscience that says that when you listen to music, especially when you play a musical instrument, activates multiple areas of the brain. Dr. David um, Eagleman over at Stanford just talked about just how it's just it. If you want to get your brain dancing and more motor neurons get activated when you hear music. Even if you're not moving, your brain is telling you, I want to move. So music and dancing are there, right? And so just start slow. Start slow. Hey, come and join us. But start just sing by yourself, sing in the shower, sing in your car, and then maybe do a group. There's a lot of community resources that people can tap into. There's something at the library where adults just get together and make knickknacks like crafts and stuff, right? There's a few painting classes. But our research shows that people who engage, especially earlier in the lifespan span, but throughout the lifespan, that the level of just your brain connectivity, your ability to observe well. Some people, if you know about George Washington Carver, people know him as the inventor of peanuts, right? But people don't know he was an avid painter. He won like international paint awards, right? But was he? Here's the question: was he such a profound innovator and scientist and botanist? Because he had a keen eye for plants, because he painted them. You can't paint things, at least realism painting, right? Like Georgia O'Keeffe, even though hers were like huge, without seeing it. You have to be able to see, and to see it in different ways and different perspectives. And so that's what neurosomatic creativity is about. Another one that we trademarked is how do the arts help people increase their leadership skills in non-arts areas, right? How does the accountant be a better accountant because she took up flute? How does the lawyer be a better lawyer because he went to, or she went to an improv class, right? How does a surgeon be a better surgeon because he started painting, or she started painting? So
I'm glad you brought that up because as you're talking, creativity doesn't always mean the arts. And I think that's so important to illustrate. That reminds me of my husband, who's a finance guy, right? Like the guy knows spreadsheets, but he is so creative, meaning he can find a solution to any finance problem because he's creative. And his creativity isn't coming from like painting pictures. His creativity comes from listening to 90s rap and all these other things. But he can look at a spreadsheet and solve a whole bunch of finance problems because of creativity. And you just said it with the accountant, right? The accountant picks up the flute and now they're more successful in their math land. So I think that's something worth marinating on a little bit more. That creativity doesn't always mean arts. It's just finding new solutions or new perspectives on things.
So
yes, yeah, and seeing how things are connected, right? Your ability to connect the
Yeah.
unconnected, to see patterns. People who do have an artistic background are very sensitive in patterns, but it just transfers these transferable skills, right? Emotional intelligence, self awareness, curiosity, adaptability, resilience. All of these transfer over. Watching my son play the piano, which I knew to build his auditory system as early as possible, but now I see it. I see him making connections that other kids his age don't make, because I knew he had to be in the arts as soon as possible. And that's why I believe it's an injustice to not have arts education for human beings, period, but definitely in those first 10 years of life.
yeah, amen. Shout out to Mariana. Thank you for tuning in. She says hello. Okay, we flip
Hi,
the script now,
Mariana.
and we let you ask both myself and Mandy any question you like. No question is off limit. So, what question do you want to ask, and who do you want to ask a question to first?
Miss Mandy. Oh, Mandy. Do
I was
you
made up for that song. I was
you sing
1975.
in my
Yes.
heart without. Yes, that's a wonderful song.
Oh, I love that song. Very
Yes,
mellow.
yes. But what song do you remember that was the song when you first got your heart broke?
Oh shit. Oh, sorry, mommy.
Dear mom, it's okay. The reaction is pure, pure. That's great. Clip
It's
that.
my
Clip
first
that.
cuss word of the episode. I'm disappointed in myself, but Janine, you brought it out. I love
I'm
that about you.
sorry. No.
I know. Don't wait. Amani and I have this joke about cussing.
Mm.
The first thing that comes to mind is the song "Love Bites" by Def Leppard, because that
Mm.
was the Jimmy Sakula broke up with me when I was 12, maybe. I'll never forget it. I think it's because I wouldn't kiss him at my baseball game or something. I can't remember. It was like something silly. And I remember I was just up in my mom and dad's room and I put the Def Leppard cassette in and I just hit Love Bites. I listened to it on repeat over and over. My brother came in the room and he was like, "Are you okay? I'm very worried about you." He was worried. And I was like, "I don't know." And I don't really remember what happened after that, but that was the first song that I thought of when he said that. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it funny how just that the songs sear themselves
Mm-hmm.
into these milestones?
Yeah.
Yes. And now whenever I hear that, like love bites,
Mhm.
love bleeds, it's just such an intense song. Yeah.
Yes, yes, awesome. So, Mr. Amani,
Yes.
oh my goodness, should I go with music or something? Or
Whatever you like. Whatever you like.
when was the last time you did something for the first time?
Hmm. When was the last time I did something for the first time? I guess what comes to mind is maybe earlier this year, late last year, early this year when I first tried to play pickleball.
How
And
was
so,
that?
I know how to play tennis, so it would took a lot of learning and to learn the rules, but I was able to kind of get adjusted. But it was refreshing, learning something new and being like total
Mhm.
newbie. That's what comes to mind right there. Yeah,
Yeah. And that's a part of creativity. And that's another tip to tell your audience is just, yeah, we have to stop holding that word. Yeah,
yeah.
playing a new sport, because you have to kind of learn tennis and relearn, and so you are doing something called mental stimulation, which is one of the pillars for building brain capital. And so
All right.
having more of those in your life
Okay.
is
All right.
so important.
Now, if we go to Westwood and we go to the coffee shop, let's say we're visiting a Starbucks there, and we run into Janine, who was 21, just about to graduate or had just graduated from UCLA,
Westwood.
and give her give her advice based on everything you learned so far. What advice would you give your younger self?
I love this question. I ask it to a lot of my older mentors. Going back to own your stuff and create something for you. We wrote essays in high school, essays in college. They graded them and they got thrown away. What I tell my high school kids is you better put those things together and publish them on Amazon. Talk about essays from Kenya, right? Because we're not taught
Mhm.
to create and then produce and then present to the marketplace. This whole marketplace part, a lot of some of us get after whiles. And now that I write books and stuff, I personally believe everyone shouldn't leave this earth without one book out there, even if it's a book of your story, right?
Mhm.
But there's something to be said that I can write this book once, it's on Amazon, and I'm eating, rice with my family, and there's someone in China reading this book, or there's someone in Mississippi who just bought this book for their like, once it's done, it's there. And also what a gift to the world. So I would tell my younger self, who was always creative, and so many of us are creative, we're just not taught to produce and then present to the marketplace. And I think that's a huge it may be done on purpose, I don't know, but I think that that's just a huge loss for a lot of people who want to know how even to do this or never thought about it. I have so many people like, I didn't even think about writing a book with my kid. How awesome is that? But maybe I'm just the one to break down the doors and give other people ideas.
Okay, we love it, Mandy. Take us home.
Well, you've given us an hour of your time, and I am going to go back and re listen to this because I have so many questions, and I'm probably going to shoot you so many emails because this has been fascinating. So,
Yay.
how can we lift you up? How can we support you? How can we give back to what you're doing? Because you've given us so much in this past very quick hour.
Well, thank you for just helping us get out the word about, dementia, Alzheimer's prevention actually happens throughout the whole lifespan, especially at the beginning of life. The Lyrics and Leadership Institute, sharing that. If people are interested with joining us there, there's just a small, tuition fees, really small, but it's really worth it in, compared to like normal universities. And also we have our Brain Capital Conference in September. It's the first Brain Capital Conference in Arizona, which sadly has the highest rates of Alzheimer's in the nation. And so we're not going to get ahead of this if we don't start talking about it, getting our leaders together and our people together. So they can go check out braincapitalconference.com. And we're just trying to be a voice. We're trying to be a voice that may connect with people who may not be able to connect with the current thought leaders who are doing amazing work. But, we're just trying to give different demographics to reach different social groups who need this information. Women are at the highest rates of Alzheimer's, people of color, those rates are skyrocketing, and we're not getting the information that we need in time. So we're trying to be a solution to that with the Leaders in Leadership Institute with Keely, myself, Monica, Kenya, Jennifer, and all the other facilitators on board.
What are the dates of the Brain Capital Conference, and where is it?
It is.
I know it's in Phoenix, but what
Yes,
location?
yes, it's in Avondale, which is about 20 minutes right outside of Phoenix. September 6th, and it's like $50. And that's more for all the amount of information, and it's active. So we don't lecture you for eight hours. We have the arts there, you are creating stuff. There's dancing. There's
Awesome.
just how do we make learning fun? That's the first part,
Awesome.
and how do
Yes.
we practice what we preach and make sure your brain stays activated so you actually take this stuff and apply it in your life, right? So that's what we're looking. It's the first one, so of course we're going to build. You learn and build, learn and build. Hopefully we can get Amani out here at one of them, right? To speak and to throw some beats,
Okay.
right?
Who
Since he's the
attends?
epitome of what we want. First of all, it's for everyone. It does seem to kind of be leading towards leaders or people who are over social groups, nonprofit business. But the goal is to get everyone together: nonprofit, education, business, government, right? People who just want to know, what type of things should I be doing for my family? So even if you're the leader of a family, or you're definitely the leader of you, the CEO of you, just if you want to know how to keep your brain sharp, because dementia is a horrible disease, forgetting who you are, who the people you love are, and then forgetting how to do normal, basic life things, that's a horrible way to end. So how can we shift the numbers in a positive direction?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So
Great.
shout out to Lori Kime who's tuning in. We appreciate that.
Hi, Lori.
As someone who lost my mother from Alzheimer's, I can relate to everything you're saying, and I know the importance. So we thank you for the work you're doing, and we'll support you. And thank you for being on the show. And just keep it up. And I can't wait to collaborate soon. And Mandy's going to figure out a way to collaborate too. So with that, yes, I love that. We're going to give you a round of applause. We'll put you back in the green room really quickly. So hold on real quick here. Round of applause for Genein Letford. There you go.
Hi, Genein. Thanks for being on the show. Good to see you.
All right, back to the green room. Mandy, we have another episode in the books. Thanks to Genein for appearing and just dropping so much knowledge that you and I will have to rewatch that separately.
We are. Yeah, my brain's exploding. It's exciting.
That's good. That's good. It's lighting up. Who do we have to look forward to next week?
We have your friend and mine, Donna Murray.
Oh,
Good old Donna Murray. She was the very first podcast I was ever on, was her show.
Nice.
Back in 2021, maybe.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So that's going to be a great show.
That'll be a great conversation. Make sure as you're watching live to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast or live stream on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave a review. And with that, thanks again to our guest today, Genein Letford. And we will see everyone next week for another episode, 1 p.m. on the West, 4 p.m. on the East. And that's it. See you all next time.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Adventures in Business. Don't forget to rate and review our podcast on the platform that you're currently listening it on. And don't forget to share it with your friends and anybody that might be as much of the business nerds as Amani and I are. See you next time for another captivating interview.